Good afternoon. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Urban Show. We're very happy to be with you here today. I'm your host, Rich Urban, coming to you from historic Harpersburg, West Virginia. This afternoon, we're very happy and excited to have as our guest today, Caleb Johnson. Caleb, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Uncle Richard.
Yes. So would you like to tell us just a little about yourself, and then we'll break into our reading.
Well, I am Caleb Johnson. I am 17 from Pennsylvania. I enjoy stuff like jiu-jitsu, and I also enjoy yard work and stuff like that. I'm the son of Jamal Johnson, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks for being on. So as our tradition, we're going to start out with a reading. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to get your comments on this reading. I'm going to share it right now. And this is from Peace Message 10 of Reverend Sum Young Moon.
That sounds good.
Okay, I'm going to start reading here. The first stage is maintaining absolute sexual purity prior to getting married. After we are born, we go through a process of growth. We pass through infancy and childhood in a very safe and secure environment, embraced in our parents' love and protection. We then enter the time of adolescence, which signals the start of a new and dynamic life as we forge relationships on a totally new level with those around us, as well as with all things of creation. This is a moment when we begin to travel the path to becoming an absolute human being, internally through the perfection of our character and externally by reaching adulthood. Yet, at this time, there is an absolute requirement that people must fulfill no matter who they are. This is the requirement of maintaining their purity, which is a model of absolute sexual morality for human beings. God gave it to his children as their destined responsibility and duty to be carried out in order to fulfill the ideal of creation. This heavenly path is thus the way toward perfecting the model of absoluteness in conjugal love. What was a single word, the one and only commandment God gave to Adam and Eve, the first ancestors upon their creation? It was a commandment and blessing to maintain an absolute standard of sexual purity until God's approval of their marriage. We find the basis for this in the Bible passage that indicates that Adam and Eve would surely die on the day they ate of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. If they had refrained from eating and observed heaven's commandment, they would have perfected their character and as co-creators stood with God, the creator, as equals. Furthermore, they would have taken dominion over the creation and become the lords of the universe, enjoying eternal and ideal happiness. It was God's blessing that he told them to preserve their purity so that they could wed as his true children through his marriage blessing, become true husband and wife, become true parents, and give birth to true children. This knowledge deepens our understanding of this commandment. It is connected with the principle of absoluteness in conjugal love, which is a principle of God's creation. The profound truth within God's commandment has lain hidden throughout history. Human beings must inherit and live by a model of absolute sexual purity that is intrinsic to God's ideal for creation. This is so they might perfect their individuality as God's children and establish themselves as lords of creation. So yeah, I'd love to get your comments on that. You know, your thoughts on that reading as a young person. Yeah, what are your comments or thoughts on the reading?
Well, I think the reading is talking about the importance of keeping your purity, saying that keeping your purity before marriage, it says, is the requirement of maintaining their purity, which is the model of absolute sexual morality for human beings. It says the model of absolute sexual morality, and if God is a moral God and cares about these things, which is, you know, the first commandment that he gave was do not eat of the fruit. So the first, you know, order he gave to human was to attain this, this morality, and keeping purity before marriage. If that is the case of which we keep this absolute, sexual morality, then, it must be very important to God, I think.
I agree.
In that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
I guess that's one thing I took from it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that this is a real requirement, really, in God's way. I think, it's so helpful to know that it's not like just something good. Of course, it is good, but it's
Yeah.
actually the way God set everything up. So, I mean, clearly we want to stay in the order God gave us, I would think. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, that's such an important, concept, I think, for everybody. Of course, it especially applies to youth. Of course, it's true for everyone. They should abstain before
Yeah.
marriage. But, especially when you're in the, an adolescent, that's
Yeah.
super important.
I find it interesting because it said in the beginning, it said that is the first, the first stage of maintaining absolute. That's the first thing that we're supposed to do when we're born. During the formation stage, we're supposed to keep our word and set conditions and such and such. So the first thing that we're supposed to do or learn about when we're younger is how to keep our promises and keep our purity. So that being the first stage means that it's pretty important, you know, especially for everyone. It's a shame that it's not being taught everywhere because it is really important in society. Uh, with the statistics and uh, a full family or a true family being one of the most benefits to society, and a broken family being one of the greatest detriments. I do think that it is, even if you're not looking at through a religious standpoint, in society, that sexual morality is a very important thing in both religious and non-religious standpoint.
Also, we have an initiative called the Right Choices Youth Prevention Corps. So I'm just going to read this and share on the screen now. The Right Choices Youth Prevention Corps. So purpose is to mobilize the 50+% of youth who are abstaining from sexual intercourse to encourage even more youth to make right choices. So Urban Life Training raised youth leaders to develop good character and model and teach about the benefits of sexual abstinence in preparation for marriage and successful family formation. We have provide classroom education over 3,000 DC public school youth, and provide urban life training leadership clubs to over 250 youth. And we provided peer counseling for over 2,000 DC youth. So the outline of the Right Choices Youth Prevention Corps is thus. So preparation is to recruit a team of 5 to 10 youth per school who can be part of the Youth Prevention Corps at 12 public charter, or private high schools. That would be like within a, metropolitan area. Work with each school's principal to provide relationship intelligence education to at least 200 youth at each school. Prevention training. Provide a 1-week training program for between 60 and 120 youth interested in being on the prevention corps. Classroom peer counseling. During the school year, youth who have received training will provide peer counseling at their own schools. They may also partner with nearby middle schools to provide peer counseling for youth at those schools. Special events. Right Choices Youth Prevention Corps members may also appear at assemblies or special events. So I think, I think that's the idea is, and I found that youth really like that, both middle and high school youth we've been working with, they like doing this kind of activity. And it seems like we ought to leverage, is what I call it, let the youth who do believe in these kind of values encourage the other youth. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I like that idea a lot, especially because it's something that isn't being taught very much in this day and age, because it is that important. Yeah, if we could get the youth like myself to teach other youth, then that could start like a chain where other kids like myself could start teaching other kids, and before we know it, it starts from like 12 to 60 to 100 to like thousands of kids teaching other kids about it. Because, you know, ideally it should be their parents teaching them about it, but
True.
when that is absent, or parents just don't teach it or don't know the value of teaching it, then it definitely should be something that needs to be taught.
Yeah, I like what you're saying about the parents. It's true, the parents are the main teachers. But, you know, this kind of thing, well, hopefully it'll be backing up the parents. But we know also in a lot of towns, especially large cities like, say, Washington, D.C., you know, half the youth or more don't
Yeah,
live with their parents, or 25% don't live with any parent, and half maybe live with one parent. I mean, that's not necessarily terrible, but
yeah,
the point about it is they may not necessarily be getting this message, like you're
yeah,
saying, you know.
yeah. And that is a shame because, you know, it is one of the fatherlessness is being the like the number one cause of crime rate, rising crime rate, and a single mother or premarital uh, teenage motherhood. Uh, so yeah, it is a shame that a lot of these parents aren't, you know, pushing for uh, the message that this is
Yeah.
important.
But I will say they do overwhelmingly support it. So even if they, you know, weren't able to exemplify these values, of course, I've talked to many parents in the course of, you know, doing this kind of education, and they pretty overwhelmingly support this kind of education. So even if they couldn't quite carry out the program themselves, so to speak, they will support the great majority, you know, their kids, you know, learning
Okay.
about it. So I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah, I do agree.
But, you know, the thing is, like I think you were referring to, a lot of it's not overwhelmingly being taught. I mean, there are programs teaching these kind of things in certain communities, but it needs to be a lot more. And I think it should be just happening all over the place. And using the
Yeah,
kind of like materials we have, you know, we have materials that can be used, and
yeah,
already people can do it in their school, and you know, make it happen as whatever, as concerned parents, especially, and concerned, you know, youth who attend those schools. So, yeah, I hope the idea can catch on, and people, you know, if you're watching this, you're interested, just contact us, and we'll be glad to, you know, we have all the materials, you know, to help you get going on it and things like that.
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, One more thing that did catch my attention in the passage we read, it said it was God's blessing that told them to preserve their purity so that they could wed as his true children through his marriage blessing, become true husband and wife, become true parents, and give birth to true children. This knowledge deepens our understanding of this commandment. In other words, because of the sexual morality, which is also evident in today, the sexual morality from back in the garden uh, gave birth or gave birth to Satan's the kind of sin, you know. It gave birth to lust, jealousy, you know, envy, that type of stuff. So without the first, the fall, we wouldn't have that type of thing. So it was God's original plan for us to, you know,
Hmm.
grow into perfect humans, giving birth to true children and being a true parents. And I think it's not that we can't achieve it anymore, it just takes a lot of work. So I believe that through teaching this thing, you know, we could speed up the work that needs to be done to regain the grounds that we lost. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you know, you got to start somewhere, and a practical step could be, or is, I believe, doing the kind of thing, you know, I'm talking about. We could have that all over the place, and yeah, an initiative led by just concerned people in the community, and especially parents, you know, have kids who may attend, or even homeschooling, whatever. It doesn't matter. Those youth, if they want to do it, They can go to local school. It's great, whatever, it's fine. So yeah, absolutely. Great, great, great. I'm so happy to get your thoughts on these topics today. It's
I'm happy to be here.
critical. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, so like True Father Reverend Sun Myung Moon mentioned about what we call home church or sometimes Tongban. So I heard about this organization. It's a relief organization. Sorry, the name isn't on top of my mind. But the founder was saying it's like a relief that does relief after like hurricanes and stuff like that. It's a young veteran founded it. And anyway, this really struck me as can be a motto also for doing the kind of neighborhood outreach that we're, kind of like, how would you say, empowered or encouraged or really that you should do because you care. And the motto is, that is his motto, and I really like this, is the motto, it says, know your neighbor, love your neighbor, help your neighbor. And I thought that is so perfect, because I feel that that's something I'm lacking in. I've done some kinds of neighborhood outreach or home church over the years, but not consistently. And I'm restarted some now. And, True Father Reverend Moon has said both first and second generation should do that kind of thing. What do you think about that idea? Know your neighbor, love your neighbor, help your neighbor.
Yeah, I agree. It's not something that I've been doing personally, but if we could help a neighbor, then our neighbors, then that could improve the community and really show God's charity and God's heart towards the community. Yeah, I do believe in helping out your neighbors and loving your neighbors and stuff like that. It would be a good thing to have in this day and age, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to like, although you might talk to your immediate next door neighbors, but to get a little bigger outreach into community or a lot bigger, you have to make some effort to meet your neighbors. And it's not
Yeah.
something people typically do. I feel, if you know about, True Father, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, it is a mandate he emphasized continuously since, actually, I just realized it's been 40 years since he had that mandate first mentioned first emphasized in 79. So to me, that's very interesting. I'm hoping, I know personally, me and Stacy, my wife, are restarting that in our neighborhood. So we've already done that. And I feel it will be very positive, and that's really what God wants us to do,
Yeah. Yeah, reaching out to your neighbors, I feel, is one of the first steps to achieving tribal messiahship and stuff like that. Because I guess if you're going to reach out to somebody, it might as well be the people that you live closest to.
Yeah, I agree. And it kind of it makes sense practically. And, True Father set that up spiritually, that your world, quote unquote, is those like 360 or 720 homes, the people around you. So
Yeah.
I'm, yeah, me and Stace are, working on that again. And, we'll be sharing some of our experience, but I hope more and more people will do that. And I just love that, like I said, that simple motto, know your neighbor, love your neighbor, help your neighbor. I thought, wow, that's perfect. That I can see
Yeah.
why that guy's successful. That is a beautiful motto.
Yeah.
Sorry, I will look up his name so I give him proper attribution, and then it's nonprofit. But yeah, it's a really nice motto.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, it's beautiful. Well, I just wanted to ask you, I think probably we're coming toward the end of the show, but did you have anything else on your mind that you'd like to share?
Um, no, not really, but I do like the emphasis on the importance of sexual morality, or really just keeping your promises and stuff like that. Because you know, uh, practically, it's one of the greatest things you can do to build a relationship is just keep your promises and keep your word. Because if you break that, then you know you cut off the relationship. So even with just keeping your sexual purity, keeping your promises, I feel they kind of go hand in hand. So
Okay, wow, that's a great way to end the end this show. I do thank you again very much, Caleb, for being
I'm
on.
glad to be here.
And very, very happy to host you. And great success in everything you're doing.
You as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. So this is Richard Urban. I'm going to sign off on this edition of the Richard Urban Show. I'm coming from historic Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Do be blessed. We will see you next week at this time. And thank you for joining us.